Good morning and welcome to Sports and Shorts Tailgate Edition, right here on 92.9 KVRE, online at kvre.com and on iHeartRadio. He's Tracy Simpson. I'm Mark Oliver. Tracy, will begin this week's show with a text message that I got from you earlier this week, and something that I found that you were extremely passionate about whenever you were watching some college sports this week. Start us off. What's got you heated? What's got you so passionate this week on the show?
Well, Mark, back in the day, as they say, they used to call it what they called a blue law. Okay. And this is a very heated conversation right now here in Arkansas and stuff. The blue law simply stated things about selling stuff on Sundays. Okay. And that used to be a strict stuff growing up. You didn't do nothing on Sundays. Well, nowadays you try to veer away from things on commercials, whether it's radio, television, social platforms, or whatever. And then all of a sudden, here's what's so prevalent every time you pop up a sports show: gambling. Every time. I don't know how many different. Now they're running the thoroughbreds. They're running the baseball. They're any sport and every sport now. They've got a gambling platform there. Every one of them, and you're seeing all these stars out. Well, look, if you're a grown man, grown woman, you can do what you want to. That's fine. But when it boils down to it and it starts talking about these younger kids, and then we're talking collegiate level, this is something where I think myself, and I'm just my personal belief, I think you're tampering with the devil. I'll be honest with you. I mean, I'm not kidding you, man. This is not supposed to be. Kids are very subjective to learning at that level when you're coming out of high school and you're watching these college shows and stuff, and all of a sudden you got gambling on there. And then you see one of these stars, whether it's a movie star or a sporting star or whatever the case is, and they're part of that.
They're the spokesperson.
And then all of a sudden, then you see, during the middle, which you used to not see, and I saw the blue law, you didn't see things about smoking. You didn't see things about drinking alcohol. Now, every time you turn around, and now gambling during a collegiate level game, and I saw this prevalently all through the local games when I was watching college baseball, and it really turned me upside down on this. And I'll be honest with you, 1 minute you got FanDuel coming out here, and I don't know if they're going to come back on us or whatever. And then the next thing you know, it's all about don't hassle these players if you're the one to lose. Now, you looked up a little bit of it, and so did I. But there's a website now, correct?
So the NCAA has come out with an ad campaign. It's called Draw the Line. And this is essentially a public service announcement for sports fans who are also gambling on sports that come up empty. Of course, figuratively and literally, you roll the dice. And sometimes your bet doesn't pay off, your team doesn't win, or you don't hit your parlay, or you don't hit your prop bet, which we're going to talk about here in a minute. And fans that are super deep into it are not only gambling on the sport, but they're also there in person watching it live. You can see the same thing whether when you go to Oaklawn or any other gambling place where you like to see the action firsthand. And whenever you win and whenever you hit, then you can celebrate a lot more whenever you watch it in action. But the truth is, sports betting is everywhere. You can bet on nearly any sport out there from the collegiate level and up. And it goes so far beyond that, because it's not just, is this team going to win? Is this team going to lose? How many points are scored? The spread? To so many things about, which team's going to score more points in the third quarter? Who's going to win the turnover battle? You can literally bet on just about every facet of the game. And that allows the rabbit hole to go down so deep. And of course, it summons more money out of the pocket of the bettor, of the gambler. And whenever that does not pay off, what we have seen in recent years is harassment, verbal abuse,
death threats,
physical abuse,
physical, man,
towards the players and coaches themselves. So the NCAA has created a campaign called Draw the Line, and it's basically a public service announcement saying, hey, don't be a loser. Literally, the commercial says, don't be a loser. You might lose, but don't be a loser. And it calls on fans to curb abuse directed at teammates and players and coaches, and says, hey, college athletics is no place for harassment. You should be supported and celebrated for your academic and athletic achievements, not targeted with threats and abuse by losers. That verbiage being targeted towards the players who, first of all, they can't gamble, right? They're not gambling on their own games. a la Pete Rose, right? So they're not gambling. They're just out there trying to make a living now with NIL money, but they're out there just trying to play the sport that they love and try to achieve the next level. And look, everybody has a bad day. Everybody has a bad game. Even the biggest superstars of the sport, pick a sport, don't matter. Even the biggest superstars in a sport will fail on any given day, on any given stage. But the harassment that has received has obviously gotten way out of hand. But Tracy, you think that this is more tongue-in-cheek and kind of ironic given the fact that the floodgates have opened. NIL has burst and it's this giant air balloon that's just waiting to pop. And of course, with sports gambling everywhere, this is sort of maybe a lackluster attempt by the NCAA to maybe save face, because the problem is so out of hand right now.
That's precisely it, Mark. But here's the kicker, though. Here too, though, pros are one thing. These are grown men, grown women that are already, paying their own bills, so to speak. They've already etched themselves as far as knowing what they're doing in life, basically. Okay. But with collegiate level, you got kids that are looking up to and possibly maybe wanting to play at that level, and not knowing what they're getting into, and then all of a sudden they're showing all these commercials. Call me an old fogey, call me what you want to. Okay, I'm just maybe old school as far as this, But I just think that it's just leading these kids down the wrong path as far as all of a sudden they look up and, well, let's just make one little bet. Well, wait a minute. Let's parlay, like you said a while ago, or let's do that, and then prop bets, and like you were saying. And there's got some names on it that I don't even know, I'm not familiar with. And trust me, there's a whole, like you said, we talk about this, Vegas has made this line, and we say in jest, okay? But then when you talk about hassling sometimes 18-year-old kids.
Yes.
19-year-old kid,
that's
drawing the line.
Their world has just exploded. They went from high school talent, and they were good. They've made it to the college arena, and now everything has changed. I mean, it is like taking off the blinders and trying to focus in on what you're supposed to do when the world is throwing everything at you. Of course, it does not take a rocket scientist to know that 90% of harassment towards athletes comes from online and social media. There's a large reason why many student athletes and why many athletes in general are abandoning social media. It's detrimental for your mental health, which also leads to being detrimental for your physical health. And it's something that I thought was maybe a little bit interesting that came out of this campaign, and the reason that this campaign by the NCAA was even formed in the first place. Last year, the NCAA partnered with an outside group. It's called the Signify Group to basically conduct a study, and using AI and algorithms to analyze more than 72,000 messages online on social media, posts, comments, what have you, looking at the social media profiles for teams, student athletes, coaches, officials, and what the numbers determined were alarming, yes, but also not very surprising at all. 90% of harassment online is generated through social media. When they looked at 72,000 messages, more than 5,000 were flagged with abusive, discriminatory, or threatening content. 12% of all those messages were related specifically to losing sports betting and the anger that comes from that. And 1,400 plus messages were targeted towards single student athletes within a 2-week period. A lot of the numbers as well target female student athletes more so than men. And I think that there are many reasons for that. One of those, so like when you think about WNBA athletes or college softball, college women's basketball players, these are sports that, although their fan bases are significantly on the rise right now, and you can make the argument that women's sports is at its peak in popularity, even still, when you compare apples to apples, men's sports versus women's sports, the women student athletes and athletes are a little bit more accessible to fan bases because the fan bases are a little bit smaller, which might mean that female athletes may be more willing to make appearances and sign autographs and meet fans, and then subsequently become subject to that harassment from the increased one-on-one, face-to-face communication that you don't necessarily see in men's sports. So, and of course, you don't need a study with Signify Group to know that all of this was happening. In my opinion, maybe a waste of money, but it helps fuel this draw the line campaign for the NCAA. But here's the deal. It almost feels like, it almost feels just like a futile effort here because the NCAA is part of the problem. Maybe not necessarily the creator of the problem, but sports gambling is running wide and rampant right now. And now the players are finding themselves involuntarily in the crossfire and wanting to get out of there. They're the ones asking for help here. And what the NCAA is doing is really trying to pass the buck a little bit. So what we do know is that multiple states in the United States, I believe it's 18 to be exact, plus Washington, D.C., the states themselves have started creating legislation to ban what we call prop bets.
Correct.
In the gambling market. Not outlaw the sports gambling,
no,
but outlaw maybe what you call a division of sports gambling. And like we said, prop bets are those more focused, targeted bets where it's not just betting on who wins or loses the game or maybe
it's
even the point
individual
spread.
stats.
It's individual stats.
Mm-hmm.
You can place a bet on how many points you think LeBron James is going to have in a game, specifically targeting single players. And while that does seem like it is slowly gaining traction, 18 states plus DC have banned prop betting. There are still a significant amount of states that have not. There's a significant amount of states that probably will not do that because of the revenue coming in and the states get part of that revenue. Nobody wants to cut off their cash cow kind of thing. So the question that I ask you, since you brought this point up, is what can be done in the interim, in the right now, to maybe actually help out the players here and allow these players, these student athletes, to feel like that someone actually has their back here. It's not just about the money. It's about them.
Mark, I'm going to be honest with you. The snowball has already created it's already got too much friction going downhill right now. I'll be honest with you. And it's gathered up too much steam. You can't go backwards up the hill. And if there's anything, and this is going to extremes, I know this, and it's not going to happen. But if anything, like you said, the prop bets, if you can't get everybody on the same page as far as outlawing prop bets, you're not going to get them to stop gambling on it. That's for certain. But I would think that during the NCAA games, collegiate level games, there should not be any advertising for any of the betting platforms. And that's the one way you're going to look at it. Are you going to prevent them from gambling? No, you're not going to. But during the games, I don't think there should be any advertisement at all on whatever the platform is. And I know Vegas will not allow this probably because they're the ones paying for it all. But that's my, as far as outlawing gambling on collegiate level games, you're never going to get that to happen. That's for dang sure.
Well, you took the words right out of my mouth there, of course, because whenever you consider NIL money, universities are getting NIL money, which in turn they funnel down to players, we assume, if everything's working as expected here.
Yeah.
But what is the main source of all that money coming in? If you do your research, it's gambling.
It's gambling.
It's gambling.
Bottom line.
So it's just like anything else in the past, whether it's smoking or alcohol use, these companies filter in that money. And in turn, they get the power, they get the spotlight, whether it's the commercials or the physical advertisement in terms of banners, or sometimes it's even logos on jerseys, right? So the physical presence is there, whether it's virtual, digital, or actually there in person. And that's what's allowed this to get out of hand like this. But the other thing that I would challenge, of course, is also, one, it comes down to user behavior, okay? Whether you want to call them sore losers or whatever. I mean, there's a reason that every single gambling advertisement has at the end, problem, gambling, call the Gambling helpline.
Gambling helpline.
Yeah, yeah. Well, there's a reason, because it is an epidemic in this country and worldwide. But the other thing too is hopefully to get the message through. It has to be curbing user behavior, because that's ultimately the only way that this is ever going to stop. I want to read you something that. So this is a sports psychologist. His name is Brett Woods. Has contributed to the debate. I don't even know if it's a debate here, but he says that as a whole, we have to appeal to shared humanity. The example that I like to give is, I want you to imagine your worst day at school or at work. I want you to imagine what that felt like. And probably a very small proportion of people know about that worst day. But in the sporting world, if you zoom out, now you imagine that tens of millions of people know about your worst day at work, right? We talked about even the best players can have those bad games. And those tens of millions of people who've never met you face to face are criticizing you. They're critiquing you for every decision that you made that day. They're harassing you. They're telling you that you're no good. And that's the nice way of putting it, right? As some of those student athletes are facing even worse kinds of abuse and harassment than that. But imagine that worst day that you've had at work and all those feelings that came along with it personally. Oh, I let my team down. Oh, now we're behind. Or, I might get benched, or I might get sent down to the minors, or whatever. Imagine receiving all that critique, all that hate, probably going to make you feel a certain way, right? And then appeal to that shared humanity. You guys step back, take a look at the compounding effort and effect on health and well-being that all has on student athletes. You mentioned these are 18, 19, 20-year-old kids who are in the adult world for the first time really in their life, and the blinders are off and they're off the leash and the safety net's not there anymore. It is significantly harmful to mental and physical health. And unfortunately, we have seen suicide in the athletic realm because of the pressure to perform, the pressure to compete. And of course, it's not just the players that are affected, it's their families as well. It is sorely out of hand. It's a disgrace to the sport as we know it, no matter which sport it's affecting. And it looks like there's no real end in sight. The NCAA trying to save face with this Draw the Line campaign. And while on paper it looks like they're trying and it looks like they care, but collectively, the only way to really make change here is by doing what I think that you said as well. They have the power to say no to these gambling companies, to these entities. They have the power to control what advertisement is displayed on their broadcast. It's all about it can only be about one thing. You can't have both. You can't have your cake and eat it too. Is it about the players and supporting the players, or is it about lining your pockets?
Well, unfortunately, you know what the answer to that is, Mark. And I'm sure we'll debate this and talk about it for years to come, but I just wish they would think of the players a little bit more.
I want to know what the listeners have to say about this as well. What are your thoughts? What maybe can be done to protect players, coaches, and their families in the very volatile world of sports gambling and the negative effects that come from what we call these sore losers? You can text the show 501-915-1300. Tracy, when we come back, we've got a great show planned for you this week. A big topic. We are right back where we wanted to be. Razorbacks baseball, the Super Regional. It's here. Baseball Saturday. We'll break down the matchup with the Tennessee Volunteers when we come back on Sports and Shorts Tailgate Edition on 92.9 KVRE.
Second quarter coming up.
And we're back. Sports and Shorts Tailgate Edition, 92.9 KVRE. He's Tracy Simpson. I'm Mark Oliver. Tracy, for about a whole year, Razorback Nation has been waiting with bated breath. I remember a year ago on the Baseball Diamond, they were calling for the job of Dave Van Horn, the legendary Razorbacks coach, all the success, all the accolades over the years. Look, if he can't get it done, he's got to go. We talked and said, hey, we need to give this guy at least one more year to see if he can get the team back there and then over the hump. Well, the good news is that 1 year later, the Razorbacks are right back where they were a year ago, right back where they want to be. And I'll even make the argument that they're significantly better, in a better position all around than they were a year ago. Arkansas has no problem getting through the Fayetteville Regional, capitalizing on an 8-3 win over Creighton, their second win over the Blue Jays in the regional, to capture its program record 35th home win of the season. And now the Razorbacks are in their 11th Super Regional appearance in program history. And of course, it's at home in the friendly confines of Baum-Walker Stadium for the 6th time overall and for the 4th time since 2018. Top-seeded Vanderbilt, gone. Number 2 seed Texas, gone. Number 3 seed Arkansas is now the highest seeded team remaining in the nation to advance to the Super Regional round. And who is their opponent? None other than the Tennessee Volunteers, the number 14 team in the country. The Volunteers taking care of Wake Forest 11-5 Monday night after being walked off the day before. Now, this is a matchup that we've seen before. And earlier this year, it was actually Tennessee that won game 1 of the series against Arkansas, and the Razorbacks had to battle back with 2 straight wins to take care of them. What might be different in this matchup? We were talking during the break, and I know that it's very, very hard to beat a team twice in a year. What is it about this matchup that has you worried going in?
When teams play hot like they were during their, they look that good. They look number one. But then they've got a little delay. They've got a rest period. And maybe it was a much needed rest period.
Talking about the Razorbacks.
The Razorbacks.
Because they didn't have to go through the losers bracket. No. They didn't have to play as many games. Tennessee objectively played more games to get to the Super Regional.
So sometimes that can benefit, but I don't believe when you're hot, you're hot. It's just that simple. Jerry Reed says it best. But the basic line is, I think they were ready to roll. These are young men. You know, we could play 3 games in a day and just still, and I know time eventually sneaks up on you.
Maybe we can't, but they can.
But, you know what? Well, exactly. But the thing, essence, I think that they were hot, and maybe a little delay. We saw this happen, if you recall, when they played in the SEC tournament.
Yes.
They came off hot.
Oh, yes.
Hot, and then all of a sudden, what? They're out.
Yeah, the Razorbacks.
They had a 2-day rest more than anybody else. And then you get a Vanderbilt team that plays 7 games in a row and wins the thing. And then that's the only thing that I think is a detriment right now, Mark, is that the time frame on this. They're getting a little extra. And I know you go through the same scenario. It doesn't matter. You go, when you're in sports at this level, you go through whether it's whatever you want to do that day. Some of them, of course, are catching up on studies. Some of them are, they still are going to school, Mark, believe it or not. Some of them, but you have a routine that you go through every day. And then all of a sudden your timing gets a little different. And when you're practicing against your own guys, that's what makes the big difference right there. Your routine gets a little different. Not everybody can throw 100 miles an hour at practice when you're at the pitching machine or taking, BP. But the essence is, I think if anything, there's a little bit of a time frame right there, that the delay that maybe their timing will be on. And I think they can take Tennessee. But Mark, you're the numbers guy. You know what they've done up on the Hill, right?
Yes, I have. And that's why I'm actually really confident going into this series, which is odd for me. Anybody that actually knows me knows that I'm glass half empty all of the time. But there's some factors going into this series specifically for game 1 today, 4:00 first pitch, by the way. Factors for today's game 1, that I think give the Razorbacks a significant advantage. And of course, winning game 1 of the series is paramount.
Tremendous. 72%, something like that? There's a number there somewhere.
You want to win game 1.
You want to win game 1.
And here's why I think the Razorbacks are going to do it. First things first, Tennessee was fighting with its season on the line in that elimination game against Wake Forest. They had to pull their ace, the lefty Liam Doyle. He's going to be in the MLB draft in a couple months. And he's going to be a top 10 pick in the MLB draft.
No doubt.
Liam Doyle had to come in and pitch the final 7 outs in order to punch that ticket and secure that win for the Volunteers. They won 11-5, by the way. He threw 31 pitches, which okay, maybe not a whole lot when the grand scheme of things, but 31 pitches is essentially a third of a game. If you suspect that most pitchers try to go 100 out of your starters, out of your rotation,
and he was throwing
you try to get
hard.
about 100. So
he was throwing hard.
Well, I mean, you had to. Your season's on the line. It's either win or go home.
Good
so he
Lord.
throws 31 pitches and is out there for 7 outs. It's 2 1/3 innings out there on the field. Another factor. So Doyle in game 1. I mean, maybe, Monday to Saturday, there's enough time in there for rest. Maybe that's not a huge factor. Mark, maybe you're blowing smoke. Here's another factor here. Starting catcher Cannon Peebles was ejected in that game.
Correct.
And will miss game one. So you don't have your starting catcher, one of the biggest offensive contributors, not only to your team this season, but also in this regional tournament. That's huge. That is extremely huge when it comes to pitching. You've got your battery and your pitcher and your catcher, and your pitcher will rotate every single game, but your catcher doesn't always. And it depends on the chemistry that's there, because Peebles has really good chemistry with most of that rotation. But whenever you have to bring in the backup catcher there for a huge, high stakes, super regional game, then you better hope that he brings his A game there. The Razorbacks did win 2 out of 3 in the regular season, which also was played at Baum Walker in Fayetteville. Arkansas is also, by the numbers, 12-3 against the Volunteers in their last 15 games. Gage Wood, off to a red hot, he had a 13 strikeout game in just 6 innings in his last appearance there in the regional tournament. And of course, the Razorback offense has been continuing to hammer the baseball. They belted 4 home runs in that clinching win over Creighton. 7 Razorbacks were named to the all-tournament team, with catcher Ryder Helfrich taking home MVP honors. Vahiva Aloy went 4 for 10 in the regional with 2 home runs, 6 RBI. Helfrich was 6 for 11 with 3 homers and 6 RBI. Cam Kojal had 15 total bases, 2 home runs, 3 doubles. I mean, extra base hits everywhere you look. Gage Wood was looking really good. Geckel was looking good. Zach Root looked great. I mean, everything looked like it was spot on. I know you talk about a team being hot. The Razorbacks look like they're one of the hottest teams in the country right now out of the teams that are left. You got to be confident going in. And I know that the Razorback fan base is waiting with bated breath here and doesn't want to put the cart before the horse. And I think that's reasonable and I think that's fair. But in terms of what this team has that last year's team didn't have, is extra depth. Talking about those relief pitchers in the bullpen, of course, we didn't have to see a whole lot of those because we had so many big innings out of the starters, but we know that waiting in the wings, should something go awry, should something go off, it's all there. And not only is it there in terms of the relief pitching, it's all fresh right now because it didn't really have to work very hard in Fayetteville during the regional.
Yeah, and you're exactly right, Mark, and I'm going with you. I'm just trying to be negative Nanny for right now, but I'm with you on this. Also, who was that starting pitcher on May 15th when they lost to Tennessee? Okay, so he's got 31 pitches already. Can he come out? If he does get the start and they keep him for 4 or 5 innings or something like that, possibility. But you make an excellent, I tell you what, statement right there with the. And I took that in consideration because they threw a stink on that. Tennessee could have thrown a couple of different stinks during that whole series against Wake Forest. The pitcher balked in the one call that didn't happen and stuff like that. But you're made an absolute. Usually, the only time a catcher has changed was when you have a pitcher that comes in and throws a completely different kind of junk. And he's the one that has to be the guy that catches for that particular pitcher. And that usually only happens in the MLBs. So you're absolutely right. I think everything's favoring the Razorbacks, and there's a huge percentage on winning that first game. It's unbelievable. You do not want to go to Monday night's game, by no means, but I think that they're in the right direction. But that you make an excellent point right there, Mark. And plus the percentage of them winning on the hill, man, I mean, I believe everything's in their favor. I'm just saying right now, I hope the delay in the time frame, like they did in the SEC tournament, doesn't come back to haunt them, is all I'm saying. Now, who's going to start for would be Root?
I would think it'd be Root.
Okay, of course.
In game 1.
Already, it's a done deal. So we'll see what happens with that. But you make an excellent statement right there, Mark. I'll be honest with you. Good point on that. I guess that's that's something that a lot of people, I guess even Vegas, hasn't thought about.
Well, I don't know. I remember in last week's show, Vegas said that Arkansas had the best chance to win the College World Series. One game at a time, boys. One game at a time.
One inning.
I will echo a statement that I did make last week as well, going into the regional. Same thing is going to apply to the super regional. Look, Baum-Walker Stadium needs to be bouncing for this. It's Arkansas and Tennessee, a huge SEC matchup, a huge rivalry. If you don't want Rocky Top to reign supreme here, make plans to make the drive up to Northwest Arkansas. Game 1 today, Game 2 tomorrow, Game 3 Monday. Hey, and have that place rocking. Okay, the Razorbacks know that this is the hump. This is the hill. This is the giant speed bump that's outside Cece's Pizza in Hot Springs. If you've ever seen it, you know what I'm talking about. my kids will know what I'm talking about.
Okay, yeah.
You got to get over the hump.
You got to have a Hummer to get over that hump.
You got to have an airplane to get over that hump. But you got to get over the hump. This is how you do it. And look, if you're not going to support the team, then you can't bash the team if they don't get there. But I believe that this team is going to advance to the College World Series. I believe that Vegas might be right. They may have the best odds to win the College World Series, but they have to get past this line. They get the target off their back, the chip off their shoulder. Dave Van Horn saves his job and tells everybody you should have believed me from the beginning. I don't know, but I'm excited to see what happens this weekend. Tracy, before we go to quarter 3, I want to throw in one more story here. Of course, we have to give our props to another college baseball team nestled right here in the natural state, the Little Rock Trojans. Shout outs to UALR, who nobody thought would be the Cinderella story of the college baseball world. They had a 19-32 record back on May 17th and an 8-16 record in the Ohio Valley Conference, and they weren't even going to make the tournament, but because Eastern Illinois defeated Western Illinois, that gave Little Rock an opportunity to slide in as the 8th seed in the OVC tournament. They sweep the tournament with 5 straight wins. They get into the NCAA tournament, and they fight their way within 1 game of reaching the Super Regional, defeating LSU in a game and giving the Tigers everything they had in that finale. Wow, what a run for your Cinderella story, the Little Rock Trojans.
No doubt. Congratulations to go again. Hey, great year. You cannot deny it, and especially going up against a juggernaut with the LSU Tigers. We know what they're all about. And so, you know what? Kudos to them. Hey, it wasn't in the cards. So hopefully next year they get another return.
Boy, what a confidence booster for the team. And the thing I loved so much was that UALR had a big homecoming parade for the Trojans. I mean, they recognized that this was a significant achievement for a team that, yes, on paper had a losing record. And you might make the argument, statistically shouldn't have ever been in that situation, but sometimes when you're hot, and maybe the hottest team in America calls Little Rock, Arkansas, its home.
Hey, and what a recruiting scenario.
Oh, yes.
Oh, man.
Oh, yes. I know a few National Park Nighthawks that play on that UALR team.
I was going to say, I'm telling you.
I do.
We saw them on the big field. Yeah, the big screen, man. That was pretty cool.
All right, from the big field to the hard court, we've got some NBA topics coming your way in quarter number 3. Don't go anywhere. Sports and Shorts Tailgate Edition continues in a moment on 92.9 KVRE.
Third quarter coming up.
The third quarter is here, and it's time to talk some NBA. He's Tracy Simpson. I'm Mark Oliver. Tracy, I got to toot my own horn for a little bit here. Before the postseason began, I picked the matchup, the Oklahoma City Thunder and the Indiana Pacers. And hey, I'm right. Now, I don't know if the Pacers are going to make it all the way. I'm still rooting for Indiana to get the job done here, but this is a very interesting NBA matchup. There's a part of me that significantly loves this ongoing streak of a different champion every year. I believe it's 7 years in a row that will have a different NBA champion. I think it's great for the league, but I also think it's really, really good for the league that these, and I say with air quotes, smaller market teams, Oklahoma City and Indianapolis, are being represented instead of your LAs, instead of your New York, instead of Dallas, or, I think it's going to go such a long way as the road continues to allowing more parity and more competitiveness in the NBA, with Oklahoma City certainly looking like the team to beat. On paper, they look like they're the best team on paper. Defensively, I mean, they've been lights out pretty much all season long. The number one regular season net rating, and then the Pacers coming in as the 13th best team on paper throughout the whole season. But Indiana enters this finals. They eliminate the New York Knicks. And Indiana, surprisingly, comes into the finals with the postseason's top true shooting percentage at a 61.7%. That's even better than what the league best Cleveland Cavaliers were able to do during the regular season. So even though if you look at Vegas and you look at sports writers, and everybody has Oklahoma City as the overwhelming favorite to win this title, I believe that the numbers show that the Pacers have every opportunity to turn this into a big competitive series. But one thing's for sure, no matter who comes out on top, Tracy, I think one thing is for certain, the determining factor that I think will ultimately help crown an NBA champion isn't necessarily offense, and it isn't necessarily defense. I believe that the X factor for these teams comes down to speed.
Oh, wow. Well, yeah, you make a point there because, and speed, but boy, I'll tell you what, the younger team, and I say the younger team because I'm talking as far as veterans and stuff, because I think that's the way that the Pacers have made it there. They've got experience on their side, and speed's a factor because you got the number one defense in Oklahoma. But they're quick to the ball. It seems like there's 7 or 8 guys on the court at one time.
You're right. Anytime that there's a loose ball, forcing turnovers is something that Oklahoma City does very, very well. And they turn the game from a basketball game really into like a track meet out there. It's really fascinating. So the Thunder boast an extremely stingy defense, and they do a very good job about getting back into transition quickly. On the other side of the coin, Indiana, surprisingly to me, is one of the best teams in the country in terms of ball handling and not allowing turnovers there. So it's a match of the unstoppable force versus the immovable object there between the Thunder and the Pacers. But it all comes down to transition points here. And whether it's grabbing a rebound, notching a steal, how quickly can you get down the court and get a shot up and get a shot in? This is going to come down to depth because although we have superstar potential on both sides of the ball, whether it's SGA with the Thunder or it's Halliburton and Siakam with the Pacers, it's going to come down to fourth quarter battles. It's going to come down to who has more gas left in the tank here because obviously everything's on the line here. For the Pacers, they've never won a title. Oklahoma City has also never won a title. You can make the argument that the Supersonics did in 1979. This is not your grandfather's Supersonics team. Okay, so there's so much at stake here, not only for the respective organizations, but for the cities that they represent and for all the small market cities that they don't represent. Because you take the ball away, you take the title away. It's not going to be Boston this year. It's not going to be LA. It's not going to be New York. It's not going to be Dallas. You know, it's going to be smaller market teams that show and I think are ultimately going to help keep this game moving forward in the right direction. There are a plethora of problems with the NBA right now, and I spent an entire segment weeks ago talking about those specifically, but this is going to be a matchup of speed. The Pacers offense starts in its transition. They love to run off turnovers and rebounds and making buckets on the other end of the floor. They take care of the ball really, really well. And Oklahoma City also does a really, really good job at taking the ball away. I'm excited to see, of course, Game 2, 7 o'clock on Sunday night. Is it the smothering defense of the Oklahoma City Thunder, or is it the speedy mid-range assassins, the Indiana Pacers, that get it done?
Well, I think eventually, like we were talking about the whole time, and I know we divvied it up, and your Pacers they're still looking pretty good even after game 1. But here's the bottom line I think that all boils down to there could be an upset here with I don't know, man. I don't think it'll go to game 7 by no means, but I think the experience plays over. But here's the kicker too, though, Mark. You brought this up, I don't know, 2 or 3 weeks ago also. there is no home court advantage, so to speak. I mean, I think that these guys at this level, the pros and stuff, I think they don't care whether they're at home or wherever they're out there to get a W. And I don't think the fans, and they're pretty, I mean, what is fans? It's short for fanatic. I just don't think it plays that big of a part. So you get in the nitty gritty of it. I think that these guys, doesn't matter where they play, that you're saying smaller venues and stuff like that, or smaller, cities and stuff. But the venues, you're 10, 15,000 people there, jam-packed, doesn't matter. I think they're ready to play no matter where they're at.
And there's some very passionate fan bases here that have been waiting a very long time for a championship to come to their city. Of course, Oklahoma City, even before they had the Thunder, they had the Hornets, of course, during Hurricane Katrina. And this is even before they had basketball at all. It was a city that was desperately pleading for that major sport to come to their arena. Hey, they were in the finals before with the big three, right? Harden, Westbrook, and Durant, and could not get it done against LeBron James. But this is a different era, a different team. Of course, it's got a lot of Arkansas connections as well, with a couple of Razorback players in the mix as well. But of course, it also, in a way, kind of feels like Arkansas's team geographically, with it being so close to Northwest Arkansas, to the natural state. You can make the argument maybe for the Dallas Mavericks as well, but it's a team which really kind of just feels like in Arkansas's backyard over in Oklahoma City. And I know there's a lot of rooting interest to try to bring a championship there. And thankfully, with the smaller geographic range there, it does allow for fans in Arkansas to go see the NBA Finals.
Possibly. I'm still working on it for us.
2 years in a row. Dallas last year, OKC this year.
Hey, hop, skip, and a jump. You can be there in 4.5 hours.
Here's another NBA story that normally would have me scratching my head and complaining and just being down altogether. You see this one come out this week. I know you had to, because it rocked the NBA world.
Everybody.
The New York Knicks.
I knew what you're going to go with.
Fire their head coach Tom Thibodeau on Tuesday, reminding you that this is fresh off of the New York Knicks making, and this is true, the Eastern Conference Finals and having their deepest playoff run in 25 years. The best finish on a regular season in 25 years. Knock, knock. Tom Thibodeau, you gone.
Yeah.
Are you kidding me?
No, but Mark, after you discussed this about a month ago about Denver playing without
Mike Malone,
without playing with a coach, and I brought it up. Do you even need a coach? Your coaches are obviously out on the
well.
court
Denver
playing.
almost made that argument, saying we're good. We don't need a coach.
No,
we got Nikola Jokic, and we're just going to do our thing.
You're going to go deeper here, though, Mark, because you need to know the connections here.
Well, the writing is on the wall here, but I will spell it out for everybody, because here's the deal. You get to the Eastern Conference Finals. This is the Knicks are one of the most passionate fan bases in all of the NBA. I know you got the Celtics and the Lakers, who have tons and tons and tons of championships, but outside of those two, it's the New York Knicks. I mean, there's so many celebrities that back this team, the Spike Lees of the world, and it's a team and an organization that is so hungry for a title and has not had one in decades. And now this is the best start you've had in a long time. You're right there at the cusp, knocking at the door. No, you didn't get there, but you've got superstar power. You have finally a good team representing your organization. Head coach gone. Now, normally I would shake my finger and say, shame on you, New York Knicks, but I can see the writing on the wall here. I can see behind the scenes. And if I am proven to be wrong, of course, we're recording this show a little bit early this week. And by the time this show airs, this may already go into effect with what I think is going to happen here. But if it doesn't, then I'll start scratching my head and start wondering what this organization is doing. Here's the deal. We already talked about it. Mike Malone is waiting in the wings. He's floating out there. Tom Thibodeau has struggled to get across this hump, that giant Cece's Pizza level hump out there in the NBA, right? Mm-hmm. So he has historically not been able to seal the deal. The Knicks, I guarantee, have already been in talks in the back. Of course, they'll never admit to it because you can't admit to tampering, right? But I guarantee, look, Mike Malone is the most coveted free agent coach out there right now. Of course, he's been doing some analyst work, and he's been just trying to keep his feet wet, getting ready for the next head coaching job. this is going to be it. He's going to land in the Big Apple, and I think it will be a very big pickup for New York, and it's the only move to me that would make sense in this situation. Thibodeau just gave you your 25 years, your best finish ever. Of course, he's been the coach of the team for 5 years, and the Knicks have only been up and up and up in his tenure there, and you got to erase what he didn't do for the Bulls and what he didn't do for the other teams that he was a head coach of, because he's obviously turned a leaf, and honestly, Thibodeau is going to get picked up by another organization as well, and he'll be just fine. But I guarantee that backdoor conversation has already been started with Mike Malone coming in to be the next head coach of the New York Knicks, and that's the only reason why I'm not in super panic mode for the organization as a whole.
Well, and the overall basis too, though, Mark, he's got a connection. Going to go into this a little bit deeper, but you're looking at the players, and not only the players, but the agents that are involved here, and with their past reference to the connection with him involved, you're going to see just the connection right there. Go back and do a little bit more homework, everybody out there, because you're going to see not only did they have the same agents, but also they've been together on the same court before. So you're right. You're spot on. There's a little bit deeper story to this, but we'll see how it plays out, Mark.
Mike Malone has proven that he can get over the hump. He has that championship ring with the Denver Nuggets. I believe that that's what the Knicks are going to target here.
I'm with you, buddy. I am with you, man. We got lots going on that one. Food for thought, though. Food for thought.
All right, one more segment coming your way. Don't go anywhere. Sports and Shorts Tailgate Edition continues in a moment on 92.9 KVRE.
Fourth quarter coming up.
Well, Tracy, Hot Springs has its own arena football team, and that arena football team is undefeated. The Hot Springs Wise Guys are 1-0, an impressive first outing as a franchise. Bank OZK Arena was bouncing on Saturday in front of 1,856 fans surrounding Oaklawn Field. The Wise Guys took down the Eau Claire Axemen 38-24. Tracy, I was really impressed with what I saw on the field.
Well, and rightly so. I mean, it actually, and there were some penalties. I got to watch a little bit on the media platform, but as it is right now, it looked a little bit more exciting, a little bit more, I don't know the terminology, maybe smooth than what I expected.
Yeah, you're right. Well, the very first game in program history and franchise history, you wouldn't necessarily be disappointed if some things went awry out there on the field. But yeah, I got to admit, and just being like the people watcher that I am and the fly on the wall and just looking around, seeing youngsters, running around the arena trying to get, rogue footballs going out. And of course, the Wise Guys staying late and signing autographs and high fives and
exactly.
all the footballs flying around. It was a really cool atmosphere. And just watching the fans in the stands signified to me that this was such a good decision to bring this in. You always roll the dice, right? Bringing in a new sports team. Is this the right move for Hot Springs? We as a city kind of thrive on being the unicorn and being a little unique. We've got our Green Bridge Street with our St. Patrick's Day parade. And, we thrive on being different. And this is a way to continue being different and add that little extra edge. But from the coming out and the antique cars with the Tommy guns and they made this look and feel like the Hot Springs of a legend, like the Al Capone gambling-inspired, mafia-inspired Hot Springs, what it used to be. It was a really cool sight to see. I can't wait to see what the team does next. They are on the road Sunday, looking to keep their season undefeated. They're in Waterloo, Iowa, taking on the Iowa Woo.
Yeah, that's another exciting game. So I'm curious to see how they travel, and stuff, and how that's always a little bit different for any team, no matter what level you're at. And so this is exciting. And I'm going to go back up a little bit too, Mark. I thought it was exciting as far as the fans getting to see some of the local talent that played here in high school,
yes.
And then went on to play a little bit of college. Now they're back and tried out for the team, to see some of the local kids that played here. And now they're on a professional team.
Yeah,
they're getting a check for it, so it's professional.
It is considered professional football, yes.
So I think that was pretty cool to see that atmosphere. A lot of the fan base coming out and cheering on their locals too, though. So, but the hype was there. It's pretty cool. I'm just curious to see how they work when all the hype's not there. Away.
Yeah, nearly 2,000 in the stands. And I also happened to jump in on the live stream as well. Nearly about 2,000 on the live stream as well. So, I assume that there's a percentage of potential fans out there that wanted to kind of feel it out. Is it going to flop? Is it going to be a real thing? I guarantee that when this team comes back home, June 21st, by the way, that those stands are going to be even more full than they were on opening night. I'm really excited. So June 21st, make plans to be at Bank OZK Arena. The Ozarks Lunkers come to town, and maybe the Wise Guys are 3-0 for that big matchup at home.
We will see, and I guarantee you, and we'll even have a little bit of tickets for that too.
That's our show, Sports and Shorts Tailgate Edition, every Saturday morning at 10 a.m. right here on KVRE. He's Tracy Simpson. I'm Mark Oliver. We'll see you next week.
Game over.